diplomacy. Well, it's important to recognize that after the civilizing effect of the activism of the 60s, such words are no longer acceptable, although there's a long way to go. Well, with these inadequate words of background, let's turn to the present on the double track of policy and ideology, beginning with the latter, with ideology. So let's begin with the month of November 2009. That was marked by the joyous 20th anniversary celebration of what British historian Timothy Garton Ash calls the biggest year in world history since 1945, which changed everything, thanks primarily to Mikhail Gorbachev's reforms within Russia and his breathtaking renunciation of the use of force, a luminous example of the importance of the individual in history, leading to the fairly open Russian elections of March 1989 and culminating in the fall of the Berlin Wall on November 9th, which opened the way to liberation of Eastern Europe from Russian tyranny. That's what's celebrated on the pictures as you walk in. The general mood was captured rather well by a British barrister, Matthew Ryder, writing in the London Observer. He spoke for what he called the Niners. That's the generation that's now providing global leadership, Barack Obama in their lead, and their conception of history was shaped by a world changed without guns in 1989, events that gave them confidence in the power of dedication to nonviolence and justice. That's today's global leaders. These accolades for November 9th are deserved, and the events are indeed memorable, and the picture is even compelling, which is why it's virtually 100% of commentary, as you can check for yourselves. It's compelling as long as we keep rigorously to a dominant principle of imperial culture. We must focus laser-like on the crimes of enemies and on our own high-minded condemnation of the crimes of enemies. But crucially, we must make sure never to look at ourselves. And the principles apply in the familiar way to the events of last November. And some alternative perspectives, mostly unintended, may be instructive. One was provided unintentionally by German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who called on all of us, quoting her, to use this invaluable gift of freedom to overcome the walls of our time. That's good advice, and we can easily follow it. One way to follow it would be to dismantle the massive wall, which dwarfs the Berlin Wall in scale and in length, which is snaking its way through Palestinian territory. Of course, in gross violation of international law, if anyone cares about such details. Well, like virtually every state action, this annexation wall, as it should be called, is justified in terms of security. That's a reflex, whatever a state does. But as is commonly the case, the claim lacks any credibility at all. If security were the concern, the wall would be built along the border, and it could be made completely impregnable. The purpose of this illegal monstrosity, which is constructed with decisive U.S. support and European complicity, is to allow Israel to take over valuable Palestinian land and the main water resources of the region. That's one part of a much broader annexation project which we fund and support. Otherwise, it couldn't continue. The highest Israeli authorities recognized from the outset that these programs were in direct violation of international law. There was never any ambiguity. It's leading legal authorities in Israel. But as Defense Minister Moshe Dayan commented in late 1967, settling Israelis in occupied territories contravenes, as is known, international conventions, but there's nothing essentially new in that, which is quite true, so the issue can be dismissed. At least it can be dismissed as long as the global hegemon provides diplomatic cover and the needed material and ideological support, and is therefore a co-partner in crime. Another perspective on the 2009 celebrations is provided by the leading scholar advocate of what's called democracy promotions, Thomas Carruthers, good scholar who writes from an insider's perspective. He served in these programs during the Reagan administration and regards himself as a kind of neo-Reaganite. After reviewing the record, Carruthers ruefully concludes that all U.S. leaders have been schizophrenic. They need some kind of psychiatric help.